All right, welcome everyone. This is Automotive Informants. Welcome back. We've got a pretty good lineup today as far as headlines and people to talk to that discuss these. We got Fred and Lou back. We got Zach back. We're ready to do this again. So let's jump right into it. Before we jump right in, 2 minutes, just so they if most people didn't catch you last time because we had some video issues. But Fred and Lou, if you guys could just do a quick intro for yourselves, that way everybody knows who you guys are.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Fred Lenartz,
And I'm Lou Ramirez.
and we are the co-hosts and the co-creators of Car Guy Coffee podcast and media company, and also
Certified Solutionaries.
that's right. And Solutionaries is something big. It's something unique. It's something that we are spreading across the country, and there's thousands of people out there right now, Solutionaries, creating definition to that word. So we're excited about that, and we're excited to be on your show and to be able to share the great news of what's happening here, talk about some insights. That's what we do. We've been in the industry, both of us, for well over 2 decades in retail, and now we're out here helping retail people get to the next level themselves. So it's exciting.
With the show, we promote the industry and encourage those that listen. And with Certified Solutionaries, we're boots on the ground, helping dealers, helping every end of the dealership operate in a way that definitely is becoming of their brand and their mission.
Awesome. Welcome. I'm happy you guys are here. I love what you guys do in the industry and the conversations that you guys have. I try to catch them as often as I see them. But let's get right into it. You know, we discussed headlines of the week. This week, there's been a couple of them that were pretty, interesting to discuss. But I know, Zach, let's get started with the one you sent me yesterday. I think that was a pretty
Yeah,
good topic. And I'd love to jump right into that one.
that one's a really fun one, and it actually goes back to a study that started about 2 years ago with Kelly Blue Book, talking about this analog resistance concept. We've seen it pop up all over social media, but people, especially Gen Z and millennials, are preferring older vehicles as opposed to buying new cars. So much so that KBB, yes, the same one who's in bed with the dealerships and they feed each other back and forth, had to go back and say, well, what the hell's going on? And survey this so their dealers could then stock inventory on older vehicles. And I've even seen it in my personal flips. Anything from 2000 to 2010 right now, I can't keep in stock.
Wild, wild thing. And what's so funny, you talk about live, what's happening right now. And we're over here at Bozarth Ford, and there's a young lady here, Grace Looney, the daughter of one of the owners, and she's amazing. College grad, Harvard grad, right? And she has a lot of friends. She has her own company she started out that does sunblock, and it's called Shiny Honey. I'm throwing a quick shout out to her. But why I'm talking about her is yesterday she was talking about one of her friends, well-to-do friends, that's actually a social media influencer, that was like, no, I only want to buy a CRV, but I want a 2000, 2001, 2002 model. One of those, right? Weird to think that. Like, we're looking at a 26-year-old vehicle in today's world, with all the new technology. Why are they wanting to go back to that? And to your point, is that it's the way it used to be, and the way things are today, it makes cars just fall apart. Like, it's constantly having, lights come on, and these things have to be looked at. When you can get something like that, and it's easy to maintain. So that's pretty amazing that you're talking about that, and that's actually happening right here at the store right now. I even have a picture of them in the car.
Well, it's talking about Gen Z specifically too, right? Like,
Yeah.
before everybody was like the millennial buyer, this and that. Now we're, Gen Z buyer, and we're trying to,
And
talk about what they're doing.
the look at that, and this is just me being a car guy and considering the market and who we're looking at and who's buying. The way that I would see it is that's also a car that we've managed to keep up. The average car that's on the road is older, and because technology has advanced, mechanics have gotten greater than ever. The technology to be able to project and to say what a vehicle needs is way more in line now to be able to keep a person's vehicle physically on the road and keep those older vehicles sustainable enough to be able to sell. Go back 5, 6, 10 years ago, we didn't have the terms, we didn't have the looseness in lending that was available. So some of the stats are this demographic, the millennial or the Gen Zs are buying these older cars. I would almost venture to say that's almost always been the case with every generation before us, that we were the ones getting the older, more used up cars, but they were a little younger to us. They're a little older now, and they've been able to sustain, and they're at the price point that a new buyer could buy at. And the lending is now available. You used to not have, on a good retail
Yeah.
OEM branded lot over 100,000 miles.
Over
It wouldn't
100,000,
exist.
anything over 10 years
Now
old,
there's way
anything like
more.
that, that wasn't anything that you would keep. Those were $500 pieces, right? You know, you're
Move
like,
it to
how
the
much are you gonna put in
auction.
5? Because we got to get out of here. It's wholesale, right? And in today's world, it's not wholesale anymore. It's gold. You know, it's like finding old, you know, like chipboards and they have all the little pieces of gold in it. That's what they're looking at. To your point, Gen Z people, and I've been seeing it. They love even analog phones. They like going back to the old technology because it's fun to them. It's hip to them. They're learning some cool stuff from it, and they're doing things. And because of the way that we have technology today, they can use the information that they're getting to tweak those things, and it's pretty cool. So it's interesting to see this whole shift. But to Lou's point, the average first car, everybody still wants to spend what, 5-6 grand. That's how many times you've heard a customer come in. Hey, I'm looking for my daughter. I need something 5-6 grand. I need something 5-6
How many of
grand.
those you got?
But you know, these cars are out there now, and they're affordable, and yet they're still priced a lot more than we would have priced them 10 years ago on that same vehicle. But
Well, here's the thing too. Like when you think about what's happened, new car prices over 50 grand now, and then
oh yeah,
couple that with the $20,000 car is only makes up for like 18% of what's online today, and used to be a lot more. But because new car prices have gone up so high, but it kind of ties into this one article that I just read about with the Mitsubishi Mirage being like the most sought after little car because realistically it's doing a better job than the Camry and the Tacoma as far as reliability right now. So
But
it's
why?
kind of interesting to see that.
Why would that be? Right? The price point of that vehicle is a different animal. It's a brand new car that
less
so
than
many
20.
other people can
It's
jump into. The $5,000 car is now 15 to 20 grand, right? And it maybe has more
yeah.
miles, maybe it's maintained a little better. But I also consider my son who's in the market right now and is weighing out his options. He's now got his first big boy job. He's making good money, doing the right thing. But he's still rocking the same vehicle that he's kept alive since he first bought his first vehicle, a Chevy Colorado that he's done a great job with. It's still kicking and running. And yes, he loves that technology, but I would venture to say that some of the millennials are saying, yeah, I can get down with this analog. I'm so happy with my new car. Thanks. You know what I mean? And he definitely wants the other technology that's available now. He wants all of that stuff. But when it comes time to, well, son, this is what that looks like. And it's, man, I sure
Yeah,
love
can't afford it,
it.
right?
You know what I mean?
Well, you think about well, I mean, I told you guys this last time from Venezuela, right? Like, there's a reason why Cuba stopped, everything, new cars, just all these, tariffs, embargo, all this stuff that kept them to keep their older cars, and now the used car is getting even older.
That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly it.
I mean, it's crazy.
I know Lou was in Cuba, and he was telling me stories about all the cars that were
There's
there.
so many mutants in Cuba.
Like just put together cars, because of that whole point right there. But yet they did it, and they love it. They made it a lifestyle, right? Like, hey, these kinds of cars are unique here. We have these, so it's pretty cool.
And Zach, you talk about this often because from a technician side, what do you like? Do you see more and more of those types of repairs on older cars? As when you were in the bays, were they getting older?
Not pre-COVID. Post-COVID, absolutely. Now, where I think this, my personal experience, I'm probably in my 20s as far as trading out cars over the past 10 years. And so I've kind of gravitated from that newer, hey, I need CarPlay, I need all this new technology, to I don't give a damn anymore. I would just rather have something that's reliable. There's parts everywhere. I'm not sitting on back order and backlog from something out of Germany or Asia or wherever the hell it's coming from. And I think a lot of people are falling into that category. And I think the important thing to look at out of this study isn't, hey, it's the price point of the cars, whatever, because that's always going to exist. In fact, I think it's going to exist even more over the next 12 months, especially with the deportations happening. You're going to see a lot of cars hit the market, and it's probably going to wash all that out. Then you look at these cars in that price point, and then the average new car prices, nobody wants to pay that. Everybody's saying, screw the market, screw the dealership, screw these big BlackRock owned companies that are overcharging and just raping and pillaging, and are going to, shove 18% APR over 84 months down your throat when you don't need it. You
Well,
just need Mirage.
here's my challenge to that. So Manheim just released a new index yesterday, and basically said that the comparable used car that was like say in 2019, it was a $20,000 car back in 2019 is now $27,000. So, you know, it's not so much that the new cars, it's just now because the new cars have gone up so much. Now used cars are holding their value a lot more. And now that $27,000 car's probably got 100,000 miles. It's crazy, right?
And out there everywhere. I look. I'm always looking, and I don't know why. I just kind of just browse through. I check out local dealerships where I live, see what kind of market they're doing. Just kind of keep my head in the game a little bit all the time. And you see that. You see 80,000, $30,000 vehicle. You see one with 94,000 miles on it, $28,000 still. And it's a give. It's what I'm guessing in a lot of these cases, it's trade-ins, and we're giving value to it. So the values are going up, so they're trading it in. So we can't short them in a lot of cases. But at the same time, I see a lot of dealers having problems even making profit on that number. So it's so competitive. Because of all the acquisitions that we're doing now. Dealers didn't do acquisitions 5 years ago, right? It was very rare. Very few out there were doing it. Now they're all doing it. They all have departments for that, right? So now that they're doing that, it's changing the way in the competition for acquiring vehicles from the public. So people are expecting more for these because another store will give you 500 more up the street or whatever it is. So the idea is that the prices are always going to go up. I mean, we've seen this our whole careers, 20 plus years. You've seen it. Every year, values are going up. We have not seen a car like you talked about, Chris, a moment ago, go from a 19 model that was a $21,000 car, and then 6 years later, it's worth even more. That's a new thing for us. That's so new, and that's so wild to think about. But man, folks, you never know. And we used to think no matter what, you're going to go backwards. In today's world, you never know. It depends on the vehicle. It depends on the things that you want. But if it's very low, like they're very low out there, it means your values are going to go up. So it's an amazing thing to do.
Do you think it's because we have too many hands? So you were talking about acquisition and dealerships and how nobody was really doing it. Do you think it's because we have too many hands in the cookie jar in the dealer world right now? With different departments and different roles and people's salaries.
And that's a real thing. I mean, that
That's
can be a real thing. Well, think about it, right? Reconditioning.
yeah.
Most dealers today have at least 15 vendors, right? Or I'm exaggerating a little bit, but they have a lot of vendors, right, that go in there and do PDR, do like bumper repair, do wheels, hubcaps. There's the glass guy that's going to do something, the touch up guy. I mean, they've got, 5, 6 vendors that are going to go and just cosmetically improve the car. And then, obviously from a reconditioning standpoint, then you got, parts, and you got, nobody wants to fix anything anymore. It's just replace it. So you think about how much reconditioning costs today. I mean, it's up there. I don't know that there's any real solution for that part of it, but when you see the Mirage not having as much things to be worked on, I mean, what happened of the quality part where these cars could last forever, like Toyota? I mean, those things last for a very long time, and why they still hold all and bring all the money.
We've seen a few dealers that we've been a part of, and some that we've consulted, shift to taking a lot of that stuff in-house too. That the paint guy, let's figure out a plan, let's figure out a pack, let's figure out the right way, keep him in-house, keeps all this stuff. Of course, your volume dictates this. You have to have the right volume to be able to sustain putting on somebody on your staff, but having the body guy, having all of those people that you just labeled out, that's an entire department. And if you have enough savings, and if you notice your bottom line is putting out that much, you might be able to afford an entirely different department that stays in-house and is really ready when you need it, because you don't really even think about the guy doing the tires. You don't think about the guy fixing the wheels until he doesn't show up that day, and you have 8 vehicles that got some road rash on them, right? You don't think about them until he shows up and says, "Hey, you want to check off on these?" Yeah, cool. And then you're like, "Hey, where's the wheel guy?" Right? Where's the
I think the biggest challenge, Zach, is that most dealers aren't retooling their actual bays to expand.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of these Jiffy Lubes and all these independents, you're going to see more of that, because I can tell you my platform, I have a AI company that we can drive a bunch of business to service. Oftentimes they don't take advantage of it because they're too busy already. And instead of figuring out a way to create 10 more bays, or, hire more techs or train their own or have a process, nobody's doing, like, they're just kind of content with what they're at. And you can see profit is up, RO count is down, and dealers are just thinking that's going to last forever. And I think that's where, there's a big opportunity in fixed ops right now, understanding that customers are keeping these cars longer. And there was that study I told you guys about, that in 10 more years, by 20 maybe 2040, I think it was, that that number of new cars is going to drop by $2 million. So right now the SAR is 16 million. It's going to be 14 million by 2040. So dealers should be waking up and thinking, how can I go after more of the pie, instead of letting the Jiffy Lubes and all these other companies take advantage of that market. And there was another study I heard that Walmart's like the biggest tire seller in the country.
I believe
Like,
that.
why is not no one like thinking, hey, look, there's a bigger pie out here. I need to go get more of it.
Right.
Do you remember our conversation? This was probably 2 months ago. We were talking about how all of the OEM technology was kind of being gatekept, with rights repair going to indie shops. Why do you think that is right now? With the volume of older cars and cars that aren't brand new off the dealer lot and can only really be serviced to the dealer, why do you think that technology wants to be gatekept from indie shops that are holding up the vast majority of this market?
Because
it'd be game over for dealers.
Would be.
Absolutely lights out.
Well, I personally feel as though those third parties, the Walmarts, the tire discounters, the other companies that are out there that have found a good streamlined process to help it out. Hey, here's a deal on your tires while you shop and you get your groceries. You're going to be here anyway. Get your hair cut, get your eyes checked, and we'll be back around with your car with your fresh new tires by the time you get done. The tire discounters, they have a very easy, high-tech, streamlined process to get you in, get you out, get you analyzed, get you prescribed, and get you back on the road. They have fine-tuned doing excellent things in their niche. And when the dealer doesn't make the adjustment or start to, I would say, acquiesce to the customer to where it is that they're at and what they're used to and what they need, right? Or even letting them know, hey, we'll get you to Walmart too while you get your tires changed. You know what I mean? We can get you to these other places. We have a loaner program where we have a shuttle. Many of the dealers inside of our area have gotten pretty hip to the script of using shuttles, especially when we were heavily filled with the military staff, right? Being able to get them from point A to point B while they wait on their vehicle to get fixed, because you're the only dealer in the area, and Uber and taxis are a little bit less in that area, right? So being able to have that shuttle to go take care of the things that you need to get taken care of, get over to the mall, get over to the Walmart, handle those things. Just saying that you have that, a lot of times it's a pleasant surprise when you let the customer know, hey, we'll get you there. But many times we don't lead with that. We don't sell that. At the point of sale, we don't let them know, hey, we have these convenient services that you can continue your maintenance of your vehicle and your relationship with us. We also provide this concierge type of service. But those other brands do get the opportunity, the third parties, to wow factor you and say, hey, I went over to this new cool thing and they do this. My dealer never did that. They have the same popcorn machine I remember when I was a kid there, and different things like that don't get necessarily addressed. And then it becomes a wow factor, and it's a little thing, but it becomes a wow factor at a third party that then gains the trust of the customer, and now they're in that person's cycle. Because guess what they have? A follow-up process to stay up with that person, to stay texting them, and stay communicating with them, and stay booking their next appointment. All of the same things that the dealer should be leading the way in. At times, we've become a little bit more reactive to it after we've seen that technology play out, and also take a little bit of our
great points.
Yeah, no, good points right there. But, I'm just going to jump to this other one that kind of ties into the service part of it, is that this guy, a guy named Scott Trainer, online just recently posted something, and I read it, and I was pretty impressed, because I had a similar experience on Grok recently. But he recently asked Google AI to find him an oil change nearby. Well, he had the like Google AI actually reached out, found the nearest facility, called the business, asked for pricing, checked availability, collected the responses, emailed him back the response, and he went and got an appointment, went over there. Never once called anybody, did any research himself. It was all done on Gemini. So, you think about, who owns the customer, who's doing all this. Like, I mean, this is service, and this is like there was already another one that I read that Google's clicks have dropped like 30% or something crazy like that since Chat GPT and all these other AI companies have come out. What do you guys think of this phase of the car edges and things like that? Where
I think it's if you're not excited, or like if you're not somebody that's used to innovation, or somebody who doesn't love being challenged a little bit, I think that this could be very cumbersome and very scary. But because you're like, how am I going to be there? But I think that if you pay attention, it's no different than how Google Analytics, all these things that we all got used to, is it's wording. It's how we get things said out there about who we are. It's what other people are saying about us. What I've learned about ChatGPT is that they love Dealer Rater, they love all these things. They go find data. So if you ask where's the best place to get an oil change, and if you don't have reviews that say the best place to get oil change in St. Augustine is here, like we're over at Bozard Lincoln right now, right? If it's not saying that, they can't find you. It's not going to be able to research you. Matter of fact, I would get down to the tech. If I was a tech, I would be like, yes, listen, please include my name in there. Give them your card. Let them know how important it is so that other people using today's technology can find us. If you want your friends to be served like I served you, please do this review. Right? You don't even have to refer. Just give me a great review, because people are using ChatGPT, they're using Grok, they're using all these things that we need to be able to have the right language out there that they're reading and they're looking for to be able to be lifted up on that list. And it's big, and it happens very fast. That's the thing I love about all those new AI search.
fast. You don't even have a chance. It's quick, and then wait till they put it in the car. Because I'm telling you, I was driving the other day looking for a new door, believe it or not, and I asked Grok. I said, "Take me to the nearest door company here in town," and I didn't even know they had door companies. I just thought, hey, that was my search, right? I clicked Grok. I said, hey, Grok, take me to the nearest door company. And it said, look, this one has the most reviews. This one has, this is the one you should go to. And I said, take me there. And it took me there. So, and I didn't know there was another competitor that I used to see TV ads all the time for, or like billboards and stuff, that was literally across the street, but never recommended that company. You know what I'm saying? So it's here. It's not like this is something that's coming. It's here now, and I think most dealers just don't really understand.
No, we were at a Chevy store in Ohio, and was doing a just walk around training with one of the sales pros, and it opened up the Google on inside of the vehicle, and the way that you can interact with the Google, and it's the exact things that you just described. You can ask it the question, ask where I can find a door, ask where I can find a bolt shop, ask whatever, and it's going to list out in star order the places that are closest in geography to the actual store right then and there. Even to the point where we had the salesperson ask where's the best place to purchase this new Chevy that I'm looking at, until it became that store showed up as a recommended actual facility. So it was something, another wow factor inside of a car itself, to be able to show how it does interact with things like Google. And back to your question, just on with Grok and ChatGPT coming up, I think that it's making great things happen for Google. I think that it's helping them advance, much like a Burger King made McDonald's step up their game, and vice versa, right? I think that these technologies.
Well, McDonald's, I think one could argue they've kind of gone backwards there. Chick-fil-A is kind of taking that title, I think.
More excellent way. And I would consider it's almost like I'd say that's the Tesla, right? Chick-fil-A showed up as
no, and it is,
like
and
Tesla.
they became very fast, but they also cleaned up their image. They made sure that the people were trained, and that's another side of it. You dealers out there, all this technology out there, the biggest issue you have is you're not training your staff on how to use it correctly. Most of the time you're just saying, hey, use it, and you assume because they're Gen Z, they're millennials, that they can and they will. Well, most of them don't even want to do social media posts, and we think they're going to do it just because of the generation. So let's educate, let's encourage, and let's empower them to do so. If we do those things, the experience is going to be better for everyone, for your customers, for your salespeople, and it's going to be utilized. But until we train and we talk about what it takes to get us to number one in the search when somebody says, ask us where to buy or where to get a oil change, where to get tires, it's big. And I don't want to go back to the last subject, but that's the other side right there. Tires, folks. Most dealerships are failing in service department with parts and things because they don't even market that. They barely even talk about it. They may offer wheels because their tires are bad when they get there, but no one knows that this is the place to get the best deals on wheels. So if you come here, I watched the show, and I just want to talk about. I watched the show really quick. I forgot what it is, but it's Shane Gillis' show about tires that's on Netflix, right? And there was a stat on there, and I don't know if it's real, but the guy who's trying to run I can't think of his name, but it's his cousin on the show. He's running the show and he's trying to get some stuff, getting ideas. And what he learned was customers, they were a service department, like, third party service, not they're outside source, like a Jiffy Lube, right? They were doing okay, but when they started, they did the research. People who came in for the discounted tires bought extra services, right? People who came, so they wouldn't come in there for the other stuff. And if you had other stuff and they needed tires, they wouldn't buy the tires. But if they bought tires, the ROI was massive. They would do so much more because they started to trust you. You gave them a deal on tires. Now you already built the trust. Now it's like, hey, by the way, we see this little thing over here that needs to be replaced. Your brakes are looking a little shady in the front. We should probably have those inspected or do those right now and knock it out while we're here. Take us 30 more minutes. That's it, right? Those things happen if we market it. We do that, but also we have to be found with AI. And if you're not getting found with AI, with all that stuff, putting that out there, then you're never going to be found.
Yeah, Zach, I'd like to hear from you. I think you're right, Fred. I think even to get text to do videos, like what do you think? What do you think the challenge is there? Video does do a lot more, and so I think if they did more of those diagnosis and push them to social media, I think from a tech standpoint that would be huge for dealers. Like right now, there's a big push to get techs to do the presentation of the vehicle of what's wrong and pushing it to the customer. Why not push those out in social media and have even more of those people find you?
Love that.
Ooh, this is a few parts. So I'm trying to figure out where to start. Let's start on the videos. The videos, I feel two different types of way about. I like the videos because it allows you to explain to a service advisor who's doing 20 other things what to sell and why. So it kind of eliminates them from their job other than coordinating, which AI could do. So they don't really need to exist in the equation, if you want my honest opinion. But at the same time, there is definitely a double standard because techs do not get paid to record these videos. They do not get paid on an MPI. Now, if you want to then try to supplement that pay with a technician saying, well, then I'm going to film the repairs I do in the shop and post them to social media just like salespeople do, and then monetize that, the dealership would then come after you for licensing and creative and say, oh, well, we own your creative, but then the dealership doesn't pay you whenever they give your likeness and image and voice to a customer. So that's not really fair. Then if we look at it from the side of AI, I mean, is that not one of those upsells that we saw and we talked about on the last topic where Joe Blow down the road has AI in his indie shop and the dealership sees it and says, now we need to add that in. That's a cost. And so we start stacking these little things that then overall raise our cost. So then we got to sell a more expensive car, which then goes completely against the tires analogy. The tires analogy works because it was tires at below cost. It was tires cheaper than anywhere else. The entire premise of the show is that the marketing stuff that they kept trying to do and keep doing over the 3 or 4 seasons now that they're out, none of this fancy schmancy stuff works other than just selling tires cheap and being good at repairs. So then it kind of goes to show that, well, if we keep adding stuff on or we keep adding in AI, does that actually help us or does it actually hurt us? Because then we're just driving up the entire cost of the industry altogether.
Well, looking at it from the platform side that I've built,
eliminated
there's more of a cost reduction across the board. So you think about some of the technologies that we've created at my company. Think about some dealers are spending $17,000 to $20,000 a month on some of this technology, and I've been able to collapse that technology and consolidate it all so that they're paying like a third of what they would have been, and actually like an eighth of what they were spending prior. So it's definitely helping. But then someone could argue too that the reason why you need advisors is because you want to have that experience and that person. Because think about what McDonald's has done. Like, I hate going to McDonald's because if you go in the store, they immediately, there's someone standing behind the counter, and they immediately point you to a screen, and then you got to go to this screen, and half the time it's not exactly how you want your setup. It's not Burger King, make it your way, right? Like, you've got to have it there. It's their way. This is how you're doing it. And so you end up getting something really that you weren't really wanting. And it just makes it more complicated. So that, for me, I feel like Chick-fil-A is winning there, where yes, they have a lot of automation, they got a lot of technology, but they still have a human standing there having that experience, and they're making more money as a result of it per store. So
Do you
I don't
think
know. You can look at it both ways and understand, lean on the technology. You'll have more customers that you can even handle, and you'll make more as a result of it. So I think that's part of it. But those videos, I do think if you can, if I saw more techs doing that, it would definitely help them long term, because they could write a check. They could go to any store. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, now techs can go to any store, but they could create their own platform, like some of these other dealers like GMs and salespeople online right now that have created a pretty good platform on social media. I'd like to see some techs, jump in there and do more of that, showing what's under the hood, and what's broken, and especially when you see some of these techs using the AR or the VR goggles to really learn how to fix a car sometimes.
it's a dangerous game, because if we start doing that, we're going to take business away from the dealership and push it to the indies and then independent mobile mechanics?
Zach, and I don't disagree all the way, but I just a little like bite back on that is that what I do believe is that the more transparent, the more that we give, the more education, the more likely people will come. Even if they go somewhere else, you did something that they won't forget. When you're able to do something that's memorable, educate someone, give them something, Zach, honestly, it does a lot. They may not do their service today with you, but they're going to remember you when there's another big one, because they're going to be scared to go somewhere else. They're going to remember Zach. They're going to remember Fred. They're going to remember whoever that was that they're following. I get it, and I understand your point, Zach. You make a lot of valid points there. But what I do believe, and I hope that dealers that are watching this understand where I'm coming from, is that you have to allow your people to build their brands. Inside, their service tech should be able to build a brand for themselves. You shouldn't take anything from that. Matter of fact, you should help that. If you don't, they're going to leave you. If you don't, they are looking for new jobs. If you don't, they don't get the hours that they should be getting so that they can make the money that they deserve. So we really want to make sure that, yes, we want to educate, but even the videos, even keeping it small, recording a video as a tech to show something, to your point, to the service advisor, so they can speak to the customers about it. But even if it's a video for the customer from you, more importantly from you, the actual service tech, saying, hey, look, we love, put your tires on, everything looks good, this is here, but I see this thing here, and you show it to me. That makes all the difference, because how many times have you heard, Zach, somebody come back, is that really an issue in there? Or you guys are trying, they're thinking in their head, like they're making stuff up. Because they don't see it. They're not underneath their car. They're not service techs. They are human beings. I know I am. I've been in the car business for a quarter of a century, and I've never changed oil in my life. It's honest. Can I? I probably could, because I've watched it. I've seen it. I know the process. There's YouTube also, right? But even so, I don't do it. But where do I go? You can teach me how to fix the issue on my car, but I would rather you do it, because you're the pro, and because you showed me how easy it was, and I could tell that you're just trying to help me. I want you to help me now. Does that make sense?
It's the same concept as, I would always bring people back.
I love that. That's a good, same
Bring
thing.
them back, show them.
I think that's a great idea. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But Zach, imagine if it's me and you give me a shuttle and I take the shuttle to the mall. And I'm at the mall and I'm about 30 minutes before I can come back, and you want to work on it now, and I can send you the video. Say, hey Fred, great news. Everything looks really great. We've done all the inspection on it. There's just one little thing here. It's a 30-minute fix. I can have the part here. I just need your okay. But I didn't want to wait before you got back. I just wanted to make sure you saw it. You knew that this is valid. What do you think? And then they can reply, do it, right? So those things to me is where that next level. But yes, Zach, there's nothing better in the world than, hey Fred, come back here with me. I want to show you something. That is some real stuff.
We have to remember that this is a tool of communication.
Amen.
Media, our phones, our televisions, our computers, all of these are a means of communication. And the better that we increase communication, the better for everything. For advertisement and searchability of a business or a company, content is always going to be king. The more you can create of that and you have searchable and findable is going to help your rankings, no matter how you play with the algorithms. The more you have out there is going to be easier for you to be found, especially if it's good, high quality. That's what gets to be then translated when describing your business or what you have. But there's a cultural thing when it comes to saying, how do we communicate with our customer? And I agree with you. If something is not the norm, everybody's wondering, well, who gets paid for that? Or should I be paid for that? Is that part of my job? Is that what I do? And if the standard of a business is this is how we communicate with our customers, and I want them to be communicated with similar to the way Fred just said, hey, they're out to lunch, they're out doing their grocery shopping, they're in our loaner car. I want them to know about the reco that you're giving so that they don't show up and then have to sit for another hour to fix that other car. They need real-time advice. Let's communicate with them by video. Who's responsible for that? The answer is everybody. If our actual culture is this is how we communicate with our customers, no different than raising a standard to the variable side of the house of saying, hey, every customer that says they want my vehicle is going to get a video saying that the car is available, I have the keys, and this is the person that's reaching out to schedule an appointment for the vehicle, right? Everybody gets that, no different than everybody gets a call and everybody gets a text. But the technician, when the vehicle comes in, well, yeah, this is the area where we get the chance to pleasantly surprise the customer with giving them an interaction that they're not used to. They're not used to the text getting on there and saying something that's actually very valid, right? That's like, this is useful stuff. I'm not being really sold. I'm being educated more than anything. If it is part of the culture, not necessarily part of needing the buy-in. So often many people, many dealerships wait until they get a buy-in to change the standard, whereas you can train a standard, help people to rise up to their level of training, and then it becomes an expectation that we maintain a standard. This communication with our customers, which is a standard that has to be maintained. So leaders say, this is how we talk to our customers, and then watch the results reap. Everybody will benefit from it to where it's not a whose job is that? Well, it's all of ours to make sure that we maximize the way we communicate.
I agree.
I think that actually just solved a massive issue too. So right now in the dealer world, so if technicians were to kind of take that role over, right? You've basically just said that technicians become service writers because they're the ones maintaining the relationship with the customers, and then a big portion of that, used vehicles, CPOs. I mean, that could save a ton of money.
That's definitely
I do think it's a cultural thing.
I like that.
But talking about certified vehicles, there's another article. Before we leave, we got this last one I wanted to touch base on because this one could have been the whole show, to be honest with you. But the FTC just released the one dealer in Connecticut, Nissan dealer, just agreed to a $4 million settlement. And the reason why is because this is one example. A certified 17 Nissan Rogue was advertised for $15,700, and the customer was allegedly charged another $52.95 for the inspection to get it certified. So they went back, looked at years of stuff, and they ended up agreeing to this $4 million settlement. What are you guys' thoughts on this certified vehicle?
What was, so I guess I would always look in the compliance side. What is generally priced for that type of car?
That's where the FTC came in, right? So if that car is online and it says certified and that's the price, you can't come in and charge them a certificate, bump them for the certification.
And that's exactly in my head. I'm like, you can't market it that way. 10 years ago, everybody did that. You know what I mean? Like you came in, then you found out what your price was. And that was a problem. And that's why so many customers lost like all the confidence in us, right? But
that's not just 10 years ago. That's why they created a Monroney, right? Like that's, forever and a day ago. Now people just got slick with addendums and they just,
they thought they
packaged it.
Now the FTC is making sure that that's not happening, and they're getting really strict on that, and they are following up with what they're saying. It's not like, hey, we're going to say this and then not enforce it. They're actually doing that, and there's proof of it right there, 3 million, and that's a settlement, my friends. That wasn't what it really was. I promise you, it was a whole lot more than that. And the thing about that is that they went and found a lot of those cases. Dealers,
It's not the first one.
check yourself.
That wasn't the first time it happened.
Are you doing it?
And they're not the only dealer.
Seriously, if you walk through that, you need to stop and then start making corrections, because the only way that you're not going to get a $3 million thing is by showing that, hey, we made efforts and we're doing it clean from this point on. I'm telling you, that would bring a ton of leniency, showing that you're doing the right thing, because they already know that most of y'all, I shouldn't say most, a lot of you all are out there doing things like that. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I've been at stores, we've done it. So I'm not saying I'm perfect, right? I've been there. I know what it was like to be able to try the Holy Gross, because no different than it is kind of right now. It was a race to the bottom in pricing. It was like, who had the best price, right? So we had to find profit somewhere. But instead, we should be finding profit with great education, great clarity, being the first to talk to them, giving them everything they want, right? Instead of hiding things, like we used to. So there's a lot of ways to fix that. But that's a wild situation. And what I could say is that we need to go inspect that stuff inside of our stores. A lot of us owners out there, I should say, that you may not even know that's happening. Get with your GM, sit down, because the last thing you need to do is write a big check or possibly lose your store.
Full of blue deals.
Wow.
Check it out.
That to me, when I read that, I was just like, man, that's some crazy. I mean, that's some gutsy stuff to just say, hey, look, I'm just gonna put somebody together like this and do that.
And that's why I say again, I don't think that it was the first time. I don't think they rolled the dice on it that one time. Hey, let's see if we can get away with it, right? And then like, oh, they got me. No, there was probably something else that triggered an investigation that then let that trickle down to say, what is this we found, right? It's that chain reaction that occurs, but it was probably a common practice and almost celebrated at times, right? How big was that deal? High five, guys, great job. How much did they pay on that certification? Whoa, let's go, right? I've seen all of those conversations where the celebration of the wrong thing is what we're celebrating, but it's also the common practice. So when you interact or jump in and say, hey guys, that's probably not what we should be celebrating, and how did that even happen? And an ethical general manager is usually the first one to show up in that position to find those things and say, hey, come to my office, what is this, what is that? And if it becomes a thing where it is a culture change has to happen to catch those things, either the culture begins to change because somebody has determined that, or that general manager is asked to turn in their letter of resignation because you're messing with a profit center that we don't know we should fix.
It's funny though. It's easy to find those on the sales side, but what about the service side, Zach? You think about the techs that somehow all of a sudden this part is broken, and they're trying to, because they know they get flagged a couple hours for that pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think happens there? Do you think there's any way to combat any of that?
It's difficult. So I think the first thing to address is the issue with the car and the FTC. It's not the price. The price is the price. It is what it is. Everybody's going to charge whatever they can and get the most amount of money possible. The issue is the marketing and then the after the fact. Hey, here's the additional, right? It was said to be a CPO already, but then once you get there, there's an additional fee to make it a CPO. So in my eyes, I guess I look at that as CPO for most people is equivalent to like an extended service plan, where it just, hey, we'll take care of it for a little bit longer. We'll make sure everything's good. But if you want that, here's the cost. Okay, fair enough. You're going to pay a little bit more. But even on the service side, I mean, we would see stuff like that too. But then I also question, isn't that the entire point of service, right? To get a car in for something cheap and affordable, like, a 5,000 to 10,000 mile service, oil change, cabin air filter, something like that, and then MPI and see what else we can try to get, what other meat is on the bone. So,
well, I don't know. I'll tell you, in my experience, I would have, one of my advisors and techs, a customer would go have their car go through the shop. My salesperson would sell the car, and I'd look at the repair order or everything that they recommended, and it was like, this thing was clean. This was like amazing, right? Then all of a sudden I buy the car. All it needed was an oil change, right? And then my used car recon tech decides to put his estimate on it. And now I've got a $3,000 bill, and I'm like, how did this turn in from a perfect clean car, just need an oil change, to needs $6,000 in repairs?
It's tough because we are trained and conditioned as technicians to not hammer the car. There is definitely a level of don't
It's
hammer the
amazing. They're
go.
at a couple hours per RO, but in on the used car side, they're like 6 hours per RO. You know what I mean? You're
But
like,
if
come
you
on,
hammer
man.
it, you're not going to get the repairs approved. If you hammer it and every car is tires, brakes, alignment, I mean, brake flush, transmission fluid service, if every car has that on the used side, they're not going to approve any of your hours on the used cars. So then you don't make the money. But then somebody buys it and then they just so happen to realize, hey, the alignment's off. Well, used cars likely wouldn't have approved that. And they come back, they're pissed, and it is what it is. That's the game.
These
Yeah,
things.
I'm sure Fred's seen some of those before.
Oh yeah, but what I can tell you is, that's so funny. I was a unique, especially when I was managing deals. Like I just didn't want any repair. I was like, I'm gonna sell as is, the way it is, with the warranty. My favorite line, and this is, don't get me wrong, I've done a lot of reconditioning on cars too, and sometimes I thought the bill was ridiculous, but at least it was all internal, right? At least the house was still making money, right? Just maybe the back end was making a little bit more gross, but at the end of the day, my favorite line, usually was when we didn't fix the dent or something, was like, that's part of the inconvenience package. We don't charge extra for that. That's free, right? So that was always my way to get people to laugh when we didn't do the dent. Because as you know, Sir Melm, that if we repair that, there is cost involved in that. And we're trying to keep the cost on these vehicles as low as possible to make it affordable for its use. Now, if we do want to repair, there is cost. We can do that after the fact, things like that. Don't let that stop you from buying this car. Let's look at it and make sure you like it first, right?
Yeah, and I could see that. I think it's the challenge with this FTC thing is, you know, they may have worded it just the way you did, but if it's certified, we all know the standard certification rules. This is everything. It's got basically got to be a new car, right? And if it wasn't that when they were presenting it, you can't just go and say, "Well, we're gonna have to charge you now." Like you
Right.
gotta.
If it's marked certified, that should be the price
It
with the
is. Now, if
certification.
it's
Yeah.
certifiable or certified, right, all of the wording to right, I see a dealer doing,
Hey
right?
Lou, I could tell you're a great salesman, sir.
Well, because I mean, I'm listening to all the angles, right? You've heard a salesperson come up to you and say, "I told them this," and lean in, and you're like, "Okay, so that was a lie. This is what you need to say to correct that." You know what I mean? And make sure that we're right. But you also can hear and see the people dancing between the raindrops in order to get a yes from a customer and stay compliant and out of jail. Both are very, very important. But at the end of the day, I love the layers that have continuously been peeled off by technology of the guarding the truth that the dealerships have done with the customers for years, whether in service, in sales. We've done this masking of the truth, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, and the curtains have been completely split, and we've been unveiled, and everybody, I believe, is making the adjustment to how do we do business.
The worst part, Lou, is that people just aren't changing. Still, there's still a lot of dealers that think that this is just going to fly by the wayside and nothing's going to happen. So,
That are going to be the next ad or the next article we review.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hey
that's
guys,
crazy.
well, I hate to cut you guys off. This is at the end of the episode, but before we go, I like to always ask, based on everything we discussed today, what couple seconds, a minute or so, what can dealers do? And we'll start with you, Zach. What should dealers do to help their business today? Yeah, you can't be surprised. Like there's writing all over the wall everywhere, right? And these people can't say, "I didn't know."
crazy.
What, Tommy boy? What'd you do, right? Fred, Lou, what's your final closing statement?
I'm just going to hit you with our 5 core values as a solutionary, and I think that if you dealers out there really implement this and think about this, it'll be big. The first one's love. You got to love what you're doing. You got to love your people. You got to love your clients. You got to love all that stuff. You got to love doing the right thing. So start with love. Then you got to have faith. Faith is a big thing. Faith that the things that you're doing, the love that you're giving is going to bring back tenfold the stuff that you want. And it will, but you got to put that in there. Number 3 is you got to have honor. And honor is a big thing. If you do the honorable thing every time, even if it doesn't bring the profit that you hope, you're doing the right thing and it will come back. Number 4, and it's something that Zach was just talking about, you have to be adaptable. Being adaptable is so big. If you're not adapting inside the way that you're growing right now, you're going to fall apart and you're going to end up being in the wayside, much like dealers who did not change their compliance and the wording on their freaking websites. And then at the end of it all is you have to be consistent. If you're not consistent with all those things and you're not consistent inside your store with the love, the faith, the honor, and of course being adaptable, your team's going to be inconsistent also. So be consistent, my friends. And that's what I would give you as advice. Always go to core values. Those are ours as a solutionary, and I hope you find ways to use that inside your store.
Absolutely. And then I would definitely champion that, is to see what kind of core values do you operate on at your store. Not just what's printed and posted on a wall, and maybe sometimes we mantra, but what could actually be translated by what a customer experiences when they're with your business, whatever side they interact on it on. But do a culture analysis in your store. Are we maximizing the way that we communicate with our customers and with ourselves? And if we can master our communication, we can accomplish anything. The greatest fighting force in the world, our United States military, are masters of communication you do not know of, and communication that is next level with technology. But often it's right here amongst each other. And as we can continue to communicate better with each other and increase the culture, our language will show it, and language shapes culture, folks. And if we can adjust how it is that we do that, I believe that we can do many things, like create the core values, create our missions that we actually uphold. And if we do that, we're making the industry better. We are brewing solutions, and we are going to that next level. We appreciate you so much, Chris. Thank you for always provoking some great thought, great conversation. We have so much fun with you, brother. Thank you so much for having us on again.
No, I appreciate you guys taking the time. I know you guys are always busy, and I do, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate you guys doing this. For the audience, everything they said, ditto everything they said, because, in today's market, I think you need to just be a student of the game. I've always been a student of the game. And if you're not out there, practicing what you preach as a dealer, an operator, general manager, whatever, someone's going to come in and take your business. So until next time, subscribe, like, share, do all of that fun stuff. But we'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys
so much. Have a good one.